Hey everyone, welcome. Good to see you here. Hope you're well. It's Monday and it's a bank holiday. In England, it's a bank holiday, which is always a bit of a treat. I think we've left the doors open, so you might be able to hear some birds tweeting in the background, which is always pretty cute. Thank you for joining me this evening. My question is, why are you? Why you're here? Why aren't you drinking beer, eating at your barbecue, social? Maybe you are. Maybe I'm on in the background, which is always nice to know. Look, I hope you've had a brilliant weekend. We've been completely blessed with sunshine and warmth and clear blue skies, which has been completely gorgeous. And I wonder how you've been spending your 3 days. So we've done, it's been pretty chilled here in Tyler Towers. And we played some games. Mia, Kelly and I, and Mia had a sleepover, so we played some games. Quirky is a good game if you want to know a really good game to play. And we played Game for Fame, which if you like doing accents and all kinds of really uncomfortable things like that, then that's also a really cool game to play. We watched a film, we watched Wonder. If you haven't seen Wonder, I would say go see it because it's brilliant. And it's one of those films where, you know, those things films where you get fluff in your eye. Do you know those films? Or the films where you get a hay fever attack? Well, that's what happened when I watched it anyway. Something in my eye and really bad hay fever, streaming. But it's a good film worth watching. We checked in with some family. We went to see my mum. We're getting ready for Borneo. So Kelly and I head off to Borneo in 8 days, folks. So we tried on our anti-mozzie hats, anti-mozzie scarves, anti-mozzie tops, anti-mozzie trousers, anti-mozzie socks. We've got 174 cans of DEET, just in case. We've got our anti-mozzie wristbands. Basically, we've got like a complete shield, a portable shield that we're taking with us, which will keep all the mozzies out. So we were doing a bit of that and walking the poochie. It was a bit hot for poochies, for our fluffy poochie, but we did a bit of poochie walking. And I guess it was really only this afternoon into this evening that we started to check in with some work things. We started to think about the week ahead. We're kind of cramming work in this week because we've got 2 weeks out. So it kind of feels like it's been a really good kind of balance of some downtime and some work time. And I think whenever I have a bank holiday, it's always a great time for me to kind of regroup, ground myself, kind of check in where my priorities and my energy is in my personal life stuff and my work life stuff. So you will know that I've been speaking a lot in the last couple of months or so around good mind hygiene. We've talked on depression. There's been loads of conversations in the BTFI group about confidence, self-esteem, managing good mind health. If you're not in the BTFI group, come and join. We'll pop the link in below. Full of movers and shakers and thought leaders and people that are wanting to up their game and take more action, if you like. So head on over. It's free. There's a ton of really cool people in there. So I've been talking about that a lot. Last month was Stress Awareness Month. This month in the US is Mental Health Awareness Month. We've got Mental Health Awareness Day in this country. So, you know, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of talk about it. And the mind hygiene subject seemed to have sparked off quite a lot of thinking amongst the BTFI tribe. And I think, you know, there's loads of reasons that contribute to the issues we have with stress. I've got some stats. I'm going to give you some stats in a minute, which will kind of blow your mind a bit. But I think there's lots of things that contribute to the poor mind hygiene, the poor cleanliness of mind. And that doesn't mean watching porn films. This is about the stuff that we leave, the crap that we leave hanging around in our mind that gets in our way. I think there are loads of reasons, but I think, you know, bank holiday brings that stuff home that, you know, are we spending enough time out in nature? Do we spend enough time just moving our bodies? Do we spend enough time around being around people that feed our soul, that nourish us, that give us energy? Time that we spend on the bloody devices, right? You know, ping, ping, bing, blah, blah, blah. It drives me fucking insane. I think I've had a real adverse response to it in the last couple of months. I don't know why. I kind of just have my phone on silent quite a lot, or I can't check it as much. It just feels a real distraction. And I don't know what, maybe it was having my eye infection and being a bit poorly. I felt like I needed to take a bit of a break from it. I know coming up in Borneo, we're not going to have much Wi-Fi. So I don't know what's going on, but I kind of have got a bit frustrated with all the kind of whole pinging thing going on. So that's what we're going to tinker around with tonight about how you are setting boundaries in your life. The boundaries that you've created that perhaps you need to collapse, but also the boundaries that you need to put in place in your personal life and in your work life. So my question to you is, I want you just to think about, go back to Friday night, just wind the clock back a bit. What's the percentage of time you've spent on stuff in the last 3 days? So the percentage of time you've spent just literally just chilling out, whether that's time with friends, time with family, just kind of hanging with no agenda. The time you spent on household chores, maybe even doing some dusting, some cleaning. I put a load of washing on this afternoon, and I put the washing line up. It's the time. We've reached the time now where the washing line can go up. Or the percentage of time that you've invested in work. I know that I spoke to a couple of my corporate clients last week who said, I just got shitloads to do. So bank holidays are great, but actually it just means the kids go off and do something and I get my head down for like 9 hours. Like, really? Is that really, do we get so clogged up? Do we get so backed up? So what's your percentage of work time spent in the last 3 or 4 days? Tell me, I want you to tell me, type in the comments. What's your percentage been? Mine's probably been, I don't know, maybe we've done like 5% or something. Which is pretty good, because sometimes we whack it up in this household. Sometimes we spend the whole weekend working. But the way I see it is we've got 7 days and we fill it with stuff. So that's going to be with work, that's with chill out stuff, that's with us time, that's family time, that's all kinds of different things, and that all has to fit in there. So it kind of doesn't really matter to us when we fit it in, it just needs to fit in. But we've probably been 5%. So what's your percentage? I'm really interested to know, those of you that are here and online with me. So look, I got some stats for you. I've done a whole load of depression and mental health stats a few weeks ago. I've got some on stress. I did a bit of digging around to see what's out there. And so here you go. Here's three pieces of information for you. I can give you all the reports if you want them. I won't tell you now, but I'll give them to you afterwards if you're interested. In 2016, 2017, stress, depression and anxiety, which are the most common mental health conditions, accounted for 40% of all work-related ill health cases. 40% down to stress, depression and anxiety. And 49% of all working days lost are due to ill health because of stress, depression, anxiety. 49% of all work days lost. Almost half of all work days lost are down to all the mind hygiene stuff we've been talking about. So the main work factors cited by respondents causing work-related stress, depression or anxiety were tight deadlines, too much responsibility, and quite a high scoring was lack of managerial support. So lack of tribe. That's about also a lack of direction that came up. So actually lots of cultural issues within the organizations that contribute to the people's mental well-being or not. Okay, so this is one for entrepreneurs. 30% of entrepreneurs will experience some form of clinical depression. That's pretty shocking, right? 30% of entrepreneurs. And 30% of startups will fail due to the emotional state of their founders. Right? This might be cash flow stuff, but cash flow stuff that then has we allow to have a direct impact. Gets through our armor, gets through our ability to be resilient, and hits straight here and impacts the mind hygiene. So 30% of startups will fail because of the founder's emotional state. So this is stuff we can work with. This is all stuff that is within our gift to change, to improve, to make better. It's the more I read, and I'm reading, kind of going down rabbit holes each day on this mind hygiene agenda, and it's shocking. It's shocking when you dig deep, the prevalence of it, the depth of it, how long it's gone on, and actually that the stats are getting worse and not better. So look, so some of this is about boundary stuff, right? That's what we talked about tonight, about how you set healthy boundaries. So what are some of the reasons that we do not set healthy boundaries? Why is it hard for us? Well, there's a few reasons, right? You may have some, share them with me if you've got them. I think often fear of confrontation. I hear this a lot with clients when they say, yeah, but I don't push back. I don't say no because when I've done it in the past, someone's pushed back on me harder. They wallop me. They tell me it's my job. They kind of bully me into it. It's real, you know, from the other person. And if I'm okay, you're not okay stuff. So real power games get played out. A lot of parent-child stuff gets played out. So because of that fear of confrontation, again, how many times do we need to experience saying no to someone, but then they rise over the top and push down on us before we go, oh, what the fuck? We stop bothering saying no after that. So often that fear of confrontation, the fear of pushback, the fear of someone walloping us harder because we say no, because we set a perimeter. That's one of the reasons. Another reason for a lot of people, again, having conversation with someone about this yesterday, is guilt. So they don't set the boundaries because they feel guilty, because they feel bad, because they feel like they've let the person down. And I think guilt is quite a big factor in it. I think when I look at my corporate clients, again, when I'm looking at corporate clients that are right at their threshold and they sit down with me and they're just at that point where they're about to topple, many of the reasons that they are not setting the boundaries is because they feel guilty, because actually they've set an expectation in the past, right? So if we perform in a certain way, we give, everything yes, then we set that expectation. And people assume that that's what they'll get back from us. So of course, then as soon as we decide, actually, we're going to start putting some boundaries in place, the first response often is about a sense of guilt with that. Because suddenly, where we've always said yes, we're suddenly going to say no. A part of that, I guess, part of that, I think, is some of the people pleaser stuff. If we have a please others driver. And again, that's, I remember for me personally, I have a real please others strategy. I had a real please others strategy as a child. And I remember learning that in my school environment. I remember learning that in my home environment about you didn't say no to things. If you said no to stuff, you would get pushback on that again. So actually, for me, it was much easier to say yes and do things. And if I did things and I got a positive response from that, then I'd keep doing more. And sometimes again, if we don't have that boundary that says, I'm not going to do more, I'm only going to give this amount, we stuff ourselves over, where we give, and then we end up getting nothing back. Or we give so much, we just there's nothing left. We're kind of just an empty vessel. There, I guess, fear of rejection for some people. So it's like, well, if I say no, then someone's maybe going to go, it's game over then. That's it. And I've seen that happen. I've seen that happen in friendships where people have pushed back, people have set boundaries, people have said no to things, and they have literally been rejected and ejected. It's like an ejector seat thing from the person's life. And I think the other reason for a lot of people are shoulds. I talk about this quite a lot. We live in a world of shoulds often, and shoulds automatically create some internal conflict for us. Anything that is anything other than a want actually makes it much tougher to push through. But when it's a should, when it's I should say yes, or I know I should say no, already we've created some internal conflict before we've even started the conversation. So shoulds just kind of really screw people over. And it's a good inventory check for you to do a bit of how much do you should? How many of your things that you set out in your day where you realize boundaries are being stretched are driven by a should? And if the solution is also driven by a should, that solution is not going to move. Just know that. Until that solution becomes a want, again, back to emotional commitment. If you don't really want to set the boundaries, you ain't going to set the boundaries. So don't head off after this Facebook Live going, yeah, I'm going to set some boundaries because Richard says I should. Bullshit. It isn't going to happen, right? So just shoulds, you need to find a way to go. How do you make them a want? If you can't make them a want, then you either need to find another way to work around it. Maybe then it really isn't important enough for you. Maybe you like the pain that comes as a result of doing that thing in that way. Sometimes it has to be so painful for people before they take action. Of course, when it's that painful for people, we're playing with a bit of a danger point. because that's, for many people, close to that whole stress and depression and anxiety button, and they're too close to toppling. So what are some of the things about setting boundaries? So I've done a whole list of 149 different things, of which I'm only going to share 7 or 8 with you. So I think it's really important to understand what boundaries are already in place that serve you, and where are you lacking boundaries in your life? You've got to know this. This is the first place, rather than just randomly going through your day. So you could take 5 minutes now, especially if this is not that interesting. Take 5 minutes now. If it's really interesting, stay with me and do it afterwards. 5 minutes to go. So where in my life do I believe I have some really good boundaries? And where in my life do I lack boundaries? Where in my life am I giving out too much? And that feels like it's started to become a bit of a angst moment, or I'm actually giving out so much I'm exhausted, and I need to create some space for me. I need to create some lines of no rather than just lines of yes. So that might be personal relationships, it might be hobby community groups that you're a part of, it might be work, it might be teams, it might be people within your team, it might be managers or leaders above you in the organization, where actually you know that the boundary is not yet set. Okay, so that's the first piece, is to do a bit of an inventory, do a bit of a check when this is done. So then the second piece is about, so you've got to get clarity on what it is you want. So when you've identified maybe just one in your week where you need to build a bit of a stronger boundary in your life, or some clarity to a boundary. So where is that in your life? Actually, what is it that you want to be different? And it's no good going, well, I just need a boundary. That's like going, I just need a fence. But unless we can say, this is the fence and we want it to look like this, and we want it to be this high, and we want it to keep these things out and these things in, it's hopeless. So actually, what does the boundary need to do for you? What is it that you want? What is it that you want to give you? Is it giving you back something? Is it giving you something additional? Is it stopping something coming in? So what is it that you want? And I think it's a really great way to align it with your value set. You know, our values are our core driver for every single choice that you and I make every day is driven by our value set and what is most dominant and what is most important to us. Unless we understand that those values are feeding those choices we're making. They're feeding the good choices you make about boundaries, and they're feeding where you stuff yourself over with boundaries. So a bit of a values inventory is good. I've put the link before for the Barrett Personal Values Assessment. We'll pop it in again. I know Kelly will be going, Barrett Values Assessment, where is it? But we'll find the link for you and we'll pop it in either during this or after it. It's a free assessment. It's bloody brilliant. It is the tool for values. It's the only one worth using, he said. There probably are some others. Richard Tyler said it's the only one worth using. Go do it, because actually that whole values piece is really important. So connect the values with what it is you want. Okay, so what is it that you want this boundary to do for you? What's going to be different when this boundary is in place? Of course, once you've set what those boundaries are, you do need to make them public. So you need to get some people on board with you. That might be family members. It might be people in your own team. Maybe if you have a VA or a PA or someone that manages your admin, tell them. One of my corporate clients a couple of months ago decided that his meetings ran hour to hour, 10 to 11, 11 to 12, 12 to 1, and going, I'm always late. Okay, fine. Of course you're going to always be late, because there's no time. If one finishes at 10 and the next one starts at 10, there is no time in between. So how about you make your meetings 45 minutes, so you claw back that bit of time, which is some thinking time and some moving time. But of course he needed to get his PA on board with that in order to structure that into his diary. So who are the people that you need around you to help build this into your life? Maybe it's your partner, maybe it's an accountability buddy, maybe it's the BTFI group there as your tribe, your supporters, your cheerleaders to help you keep it in place. We're talking one boundary, right? For those of you that are going, yeah, I got 50 boundaries I'm going to set this week. Don't do that. It's crazy. We're going one boundary. Remember, 1 degree. Thank you, Kelly, for posting the Barrett Values Assessment link. I think it's also important in setting boundaries to recognise that you are not responsible for other people's feelings and reactions. Ooh, some people are going to go, oh, that hurts. You are not responsible. And I think that's a part of what feeds the guilt. It feeds the fear of confrontation. It feeds the shoulds. Because what happens if they're disappointed? What happens if they feel let down? What happens if they're cross? What happens if they're pissed because I say no? You are not responsible for the way other people choose to react. What you are responsible for and in control of is delivering that message in the most adult way, in the most clean way, in a way that has some compassion, some understanding, and the clarity. There has to be the clarity about what it is and what it isn't. And if you need to practice having that conversation with someone before you do it, then do that. Do that. Come and do it in the BTFI group. Go, can we have a couple of minutes? This is what the conversation's going to go like. Then practice that. Because what I've seen lots of people go, they set a boundary and they get a bit of game playing from the other person, and then they start to collapse the boundary. I've watched it happen. The boundary collapses where they give in a little bit and they give in a little bit and they give in a little bit more. They get some more push and they give in a little bit. And in the end you go, it's crazy because nothing's any different. So in setting your boundaries, you are not responsible for the way other people choose to respond. That is not within your gift. I choose my feelings. I choose my reactions. You choose yours. They choose theirs. And that doesn't stop you from giving a shit as you deliver the message to them that is about a no. Yeah. Okay, so this is a good one. So potentially, sometimes we fight this feeling, right? Where we go, I'm going to say no, but I'm going to feel selfish. And that's not good to feel selfish. You might feel selfish. In fact, actually, if you're a big people pleaser and you kind of just, your floodgates are open and you just keep giving, suddenly going no, because you know that actually this is for you. This is about time and energy invested for you. Maybe that's why you're saying no, because you want to claw some weekend back. You want to claw some evening back. You want to claw some time back to focus on your stuff. Yeah, you might feel selfish. Yeah, absolutely, you might feel a bit bad about it. And actually, that's okay. So there's something about your ability to accept that. And you don't need to be beaten by that. That you accept it and go, that is how that feels. When I'm used to saying yes to something and suddenly now I'm going to create a boundary that says no. And that knowing that that purpose is for me. Right? Yeah, I love this question. I got a load of good questions here, but I'm just going to give you this one. It's ask yourself, if no one were to feel disappointed by the choice you've made or the decision or the boundary that you're put in place, if no one were to feel disappointed, would you say yes or would you say no? Would you put the boundary in place or would you not? Okay, so if no one were to feel disappointed, what would you do? Because I think bloody loads of times people know they're going to be disappointed. So therefore, I'll just do it. I'll say yes. So if no one were going to be disappointed, what choice would you be making? And in there is your answer as to whether you actually genuinely want to put the time into this and not have a boundary, or whether you need to create the boundary. Okay, so when saying no to somebody, don't over-explain the no. You don't have to justify. You don't have to justify your life existence. You might want to give an explanation, and that is very different to justifying it. And again, I have watched this play out in meeting rooms where someone has created a boundary. They've said, they've given a no to something, they've put the fence up, and then they give this whole kind of spiel which backs it up and justifies it. And actually the subtext of the justification is, no, 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 no. No, 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 no. That's why. And actually, it's really shit energy that's created as a result of it. So if you need to put some clarity behind it, put some clarity behind it and know when that sentence ends. Which is why I think it's really important that you practice this stuff. Practice it in the mirror, practice it to get some feedback. But as soon as we get into a bit of justification, it's really easy for somebody to take us down. And we walk away and what we realize is there is still no boundary. So this is a real practice one for me. I think the more I talk about this, the more I realise the need to get clarity on your language, on how you're going to structure that message. If you are unsure, ask someone to help you out with it. Because playing it live for the first time, if that is not your comfortable space, then that's pretty tough, I think. Okay, what we also need to be aware of, and again, I talk about this a lot, is choices and consequences. So for every single choice you make, there is a consequence, and you need to own that. Saying no always comes with a consequence. Always. As does saying yes. And when we go through life on autopilot and we forget and we just kind of randomly say yes and no because it's habitual, we forget that it comes with consequences. But in order to make this, you get your emotional commitment piece, then sit down and plot out the choice you are making here and what the consequence is. So when I say yes to these 10 things, what is the consequence? And maybe you're okay with it. Maybe it's all right to go, actually, that means I lose an hour off my evening and I lose 2 hours, but maybe that's okay. I can do that. I can do that deal. I'll do that deal with myself for some clients, with some projects, and some weeks I'll go, I need to do that tonight. Yeah, I lose that I was going to sit down and watch a film. Do you know what? I've made a commitment. I'm going to deliver this and I want to do it. It's not a should. If it's a should, we've got a problem. Because then I'm a bit torn. No one really gets my attention. But if it's a want, it's okay. It's a deal. Sometimes we need to do that. But you need to know that for every choice you make comes a consequence without fail. Doesn't always mean catastrophic. Doesn't always mean catastrophic, but it means that if we are giving something, we've got to lose something. If we are getting something, we've got to lose something. That's how the world works. Okay, and I think it's also, there's a bit of an accountability piece in here too, about who's your tribe, who's supporting you, who's got your back. Who's your coach that's going to help you plot this out and again, hold you to it? So that's, for me, that's about the importance of only, if we're setting boundaries, that you choose one place where you just need to set a boundary, where you need to find your power and you need to ground yourself. This is back to connecting with self. Choosing one example in this week where you're going to do that. Not 50 examples when you're suddenly going to be Mr. or Mrs. Boundary Setter. This is where, just one place where you go, actually, do you know what? That is it's just been a little bit too much give, a little bit too much take. It's just slightly gone on the wonk. That's okay. So just one where you're going to realign it and get it back into place. But do one that is important enough for you. Set a boundary that matters enough to you. Okay. I think that whole, and sometimes, maybe it's a self, because sometimes I do this. I was thinking as I talk, sometimes I do the whole self-justification piece that there has to be a good enough reason. So if I'm going to set a boundary and I'm saying no to that thing, I need to be able to justify to myself why that time I'm getting back is really important, because therefore I need to fill it doing some washing or some hoovering or digging the garden. I've got some time back. Maybe I need to cut the grass. And do you know what? That is then a problem too. It's really okay to go, I'm getting that time back just for quiet time. I know I've spoken to Steve Trister quite a lot. You'll have seen him on Facebook Live a couple of weeks ago. I did an expert interview with him this week. And he talks a lot about just sitting quietly and literally just quietly, even if it's for a minute or two. And we hear our heartbeat and we hear our breath. But that's it. And it's okay setting boundaries. It is okay to do it just to get some you time back. Maybe that's time to meditate. Or maybe that's time to journal, or maybe that's time just for 5 minutes to listen to a really great piece of music that changes your state or changes your mood or nourishes you in some way. But where are you making that time in your life? That's that self-investment piece. And some of the boundary setting that perhaps you need to do will be simply just for feeding that quiet time. I'm saying no to this so I can claw back half an hour just for me. 5 minutes just for me. It's tough, right? Because we live in a world that is more and more frantic and busy and crazy stuff going on than we've ever lived in. Fast-paced, pinging, dinging, plonking from telephones, laptops, tablets, doorbells, all kinds of stuff. And actually, sometimes we just need some quiet time to reground. So I hope your weekend has given you that. I hope you've created that, because we won't have given it to you. The weekend won't go, here you go. Have a few hours to chill out. You have to create it. You have to ask for it. So hopefully you have asked for, made, carved out time to just to regroup, to refocus. Week ahead, probably busy weeks ahead. Did you make that time or did you not? If you didn't, you've got another bank holiday for those folks that are in the UK coming up in May where you can practice it. Practice setting some boundaries. Summer holidays coming up, a great time to practice setting some boundaries. Okay, I think that's it from me today. It's a bit of a shorter one. You see, I'm looking kind of like a bit summery, aren't I? I look like I've kind of got that whole bit of beach vibe going on. I haven't been to a beach today. It's my super dry, but it's kind of a bit Superman-ish. But anyway, I digress. Have a great night. If you're not a part of the BTFI group, come and join us. The link is in the feed. If you want the Barrett Values Assessment, the link is also in the feed. It's brilliant. Go do it. It's going to give you a rich insight as to how you run your inner world. And next week, we've got a really even more special than just me on Facebook Live. Next week, I don't know if we're saying who is on next week. Just listening in my earpiece for my producer to tell me whether we are announcing who's on next week's Facebook Live. Are we announcing who's on? I can't hear on the earpiece. It's buzzing. It's buzzing. I don't know whether we're announcing or not. But yes, we're announcing. I got it just in my earpiece, just in time. Thank you, producer. Next week, we have got Ed Fido on, who is whipping up the world of education. School 21, which is the most cutting edge, phenomenal place that he, with a couple of his pals, has created. Ofsted Outstanding. It's bloody incredible what he's doing with the whole education world. Tipped it upside down, shaking it around. It's amazing. It's amazing. It's amazing. I'm really lucky that our good chum Mike Dixon introduced us to Ed. It's going to be great to have him on. So that's next Monday at 8 o'clock. And so join us. And if you've got education pals that you think will be fascinated to hear more about what he's doing, then tell them to come and join the group and come and check it out. So it's going to be a cool one. So look, have a great week. Make the commitment to yourself to set some boundaries, to stop doing some stuff. Make it a public commitment. Come and put it on the page, put it on the feed now. If you're not watching live, you can still post your questions, still post your comments. We'll get back to you. That's it. Have a super week. Look after yourselves. Look after each other. Lots of love. And I'll see you soon. Bye.